my name is Sandy Hall. I'm president of Bailey Special Risk. Bailey Special Risk is a wholesale insurance broker. We partner with independent insurance agents to help them identify the risk exposure for cyber liability, errors and omissions, and other professional liability lines, and help them insure those as well. I handle most of the marketing with our independent agents, as well as education on the products that we offer, including cyber liability, management liability, and errors and omissions. So cyber insurance is a product that was designed to help businesses address their risk regarding information that they hold, private information, corporate information, healthcare information. As businesses, we're often required to collect that information. Sometimes we pass that on to another party or we hold it, but the process of collecting it and having that information means that we have to protect it. And if we don't, there's liability associated with that. So these products were developed to help corporations address those liabilities. Over time, it has expanded to include more than just the liability portion. So now it also covers notifying the affected individuals should they have been, their identities be breached or their healthcare information be exposed on the internet or to other parties. It helps them with PR, so that if there is a breach, they have to put out press releases. They oftentimes have to do interviews on the television. If there's a certain number of parties that have been affected, they're legally required to do that. So it gets them help with that and covers the cost of doing that. It helps them set up credit monitoring centers so that they can offer credit monitoring to all of the affected individuals. And it covers all of those costs. It also covers costs of lost income because of downtime. If their business has been ransomed by a cyber criminal and they have to pay out cryptocurrency to meet that ransom and get their data back, it helps them address those costs as well. It helps them address transfer of their funds if they've been scammed into giving them to cyber criminals. So it's a pretty broad coverage. And it addresses a lot of the exposures that have arisen with the development of technology and the use and adoption of technology within our corporations and businesses. There are different types of cyber insurance. We often hear people tell us that they have insurance with their business office policy. But those policies typically only provide a small limit and they have pretty restrictive coverage terms so that they're not spending out large amounts on the losses. What you want to look for is a monoline policy. Carriers write those. If you're in the business of technology, that's your professional service, they write a policy just for those companies that provides them with errors and omissions coverage, as well as the network security coverages, so the notification costs and the liability associated with a breach of data. If you're a mainstream business, someone not in the business of providing technology services, if you're in the financial institutions, healthcare, retail, any of the other mainstream businesses, you don't need that tech E&O portion of the coverage. So that provides you, the policies provide you a robust coverage for data privacy, network security coverages. The first thing you're going to want to look for is a carrier with lots of experience in handling breaches. Breaches are unique exposures. They're different than other property and casualty exposures. They require more involvement in the initial processes of handling a claim. You want to get on top of them quick. So you want a carrier that has a lot of experience, that's dealt with a lot of different types of breaches so that they can immediately identify the problem and get solutions started right away. That really does minimize the amount of exposure to loss. Additionally, you want a carrier that's going to provide broad coverages. So you want all of the liability coverages, the notification costs, the legal and forensic costs to be covered. They have strong relationships with legal vendors that know what the legal requirements are following a breach and can get you moving on those to meet those requirements quickly. They also have strong relationships with computer forensics firms and accounting firms to help you identify the loss, contain the loss, and get back operational as quickly as possible. They can provide coverage for voluntary shutdown. So if your system is still operational, but you're leaking information, you can shut the system down and contain that. Not all policies do that, so that's a coverage you want to look for, and many of the monoline carriers do provide that coverage. So in the last 3 years, specifically since the beginning of the pandemic, the cyber environment has shifted dramatically. The shift from businesses to in-person work to remote work opened up pathways for cyber criminals to get into a lot more businesses, and they immediately saw that as an access point. In 2021, they recognized that the more remote workers you had, the greater your chances of experiencing a data breach or ransomware attack, and the larger the costs associated with that would be. It's hard to manage many remote workers and at large distances, so you have to put in that infrastructure, the technology, to make sure that you're locking down the system and keeping those criminals out. As a result of that, as well as increased demand, the businesses know that they are a target for cyber criminals, so they are demanding insurance. They're demanding higher limits. As a result of both of those things, pricing increased significantly in the last 3 years. In the last 12 months, it's been very volatile. Additionally, carriers have also pulled back from offering extremely high limits. So it was not unusual to get a $10 million limit in the past, where in the last year, most carriers, the most they would offer is 5, or sometimes only 2. So then you have to go out and get excess layers to level that up to, in the event that you had a really large breach, you have enough limit to cover that exposure. Absolutely. They're looking for strong cybersecurity, a strong posture. That posture should include all of the technology aspects of it, multi-factor authentication for both email access to the system, remote network connections to the system. But it also is looking for a strong posture regarding educating your employees. Employees and people in general tend to be the weakest link in the system. You can have all the technology and strong security you want and can afford, but in the end, most of the time, it's an employee doing what they think is in the best cause for their company, and they accidentally let in malware, a ransomware attack. And it's hard to prevent against that, but training and education is the way that you can minimize that exposure.